Hey guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, I'm going to be talking about Philippa Gregory. So, if you've been watching my channel, you know good and well that Philippa Gregory is my favorite author of all time. Not only my favorite author, but also my favorite historical fiction writer. And the reason I decided to do this video talking about Philippa Gregory for this month is because I received a comment on, I think, my TBR or something. I can't remember what video, but I received a comment and someone was asking me that they really want to get into Philippa Gregory, but they don't really know where to start because she has a lot of books, which is absolutely true. The woman has megatons of books, several series. And yeah, this person was asking where's a good place to start, and I was giving her some suggestions. So yeah, not only am I going to talk about her books, but just to impart a little bit of information about Philippa Gregory herself. I'll sit here and look at my notes, you guys. Philippa Gregory was born back in January 1954, and she was actually born in Kenya, which I didn't know. I did not know that Philippa Gregory was born in Kenya. I just assumed she was born, you know, in Europe, since she's a British author. I just assumed she was born in London or something, but yeah, that was pretty cool. And Philippa Gregory has been writing since 1987. Woo! She has definitely had a really long and productive career, that's for sure, because she's been going since 1987. She's just kept going and going and going. And Philippa Gregory does tend to mostly just write historical fiction nowadays, but she has dabbled in modern fiction every now and then. I think she dabbled a little bit kind of in her early career, but yeah, since then she's pretty much written nothing but historical fiction. And what you have to know about Philippa Gregory's historical fiction is the fact that she takes these women of history, mostly wealthy noble women of whatever time period she's focusing on, whether that be from the Plantagenets or the Tudors. She'll take these wealthy women and breathe new life into these characters, because the thing is, a lot of the women that she writes about, they were often overshadowed by their more famous husbands. Like in particular in her Tudor Court series, Philippa Gregory has written a book for each of the wives of Henry VIII. And that's just great, you know, because everyone knows everything about Henry VIII, but we don't know everything about some of the wives. And I just love that Philippa Gregory was able to breathe new and refreshing light into, like, the wives of Henry VIII in particular, you know, and make Henry VIII more of a background character than a forward character. So, a little bit about me and my history with Philippa Gregory. The books that I'm about to show you, I currently own 22 of Philippa Gregory's books. I own 22 of them. She's written more than 22 books, but I have only read 16 of the 22 books that I have. So I think I've done pretty good for myself. I consider that pretty good, considering how many books she does have. I think having read 16 of the 22 is pretty good. And the very first Philippa Gregory book that me, personally, that I picked up was actually The Other Boleyn Girl, which is about Henry VIII's second wife, Anne Boleyn. I was already familiar with the story of Anne Boleyn, you know, having seen some TV movies and whatnot. I was already familiar with her, so I thought that would be a good place to start. And I think if I was to recommend where to start, it probably would be The Other Boleyn Girl. If you want to get an idea of Philippa Gregory's writing style and her narrative structure, I think that's a good place to start. And the thing is, The Other Boleyn Girl is also considered Philippa Gregory's her top novel, I think. I think it continues to be her most popular and successful novel. So if you kind of want to start there, I suggest that's a good idea. But if you don't want to just start randomly somewhere, I am going to go through her entire list of books, her bibliography, I suppose. So let's start off with what brought Philippa Gregory into the limelight, and that is her Whiteacre trilogy, which was released back in 1987. And the trilogy consists of Whiteacre, The Favored Child, and Meriden. So if you want to start off with this series, what you have to know about the series is that it's basically about this family estate. It takes place in the 1700s, and it's about this estate called the Whiteacre Estate. And what we basically have going throughout this entire trilogy is focusing on the Lacey family, their connection to the Whiteacre Estate, all of the drama and angst that occurs. It gets pretty heavy, it gets pretty dark, and yeah, it's a generational trilogy. Like in the first book, you start off with a set of characters, and then the second book you get a whole nother set of characters, and then the same with the third. But it's all the same family, you know, just a different set of characters. And then Philippa Gregory's next set of books that she came out with is her Earthly Joys duology, which was released in 1998. And this consists of Earthly Joys and Virgin Earth. And I have not read this duology yet, which is a shame. I've been dying to read this duology for such a long time, but I've never really gotten my hands on it, and it sounds so good. It takes place in the 1600s, and it follows royal gardeners, gardeners of all people, you guys, John Tradescant and his son, through the gunpowder plot, the accession of King Charles I, and yeah, one of the characters eventually winding up on the colony of Virginia. So yeah, the duology sounds super good. Like I said, it's a shame I haven't gotten around to it yet, but this is considered one of her more popular sets of books as well. So let's move on to the Tudor Court series, which is probably one of Philippa Gregory's most popular sets of books. And the first book was The Other Boleyn Girl, released in 2001. The thing you have to know about the Tudor Court series is that the publication order is not the chronological order you should read the books. So I'm going to tell you the chronological way to read the books. First, start off with The Constant Princess, which is about Catherine of Aragon. And then the next book you need to read, which I think has actually just been recently published here in 2016, is Three Sisters, Three Queens, which follows Margaret and Mary Tudor, who were the sisters of Henry VIII. And this one also has a bit of Catherine of Aragon as well. Then The Other Boleyn Girl, which focuses on Mary and Anne Boleyn. Then The Boleyn Inheritance, which focuses on Jane Parker, Anne of Cleves, and Catherine Howard. And then another new book that has recently come out is The Taming of the Queen, which focuses on Catherine Parr. Then read The Queen's Fool, which focuses on Edward VI, Mary I, and Queen Elizabeth I. And then The Virgin's Lover, which focuses on Elizabeth I and her relationship with Robert and Amy Dudley. And then The Other Queen, which is about Mary, Queen of Scots. And then on Goodreads, apparently there is another book coming out, but it has an unknown title, and this will supposedly be focusing on Jane Grey and her sisters, which sounds pretty cool. So that is it for the Tudor Court series and the suggested reading order. And if I had to pick my favorites from the Tudor Court series, definitely The Other Boleyn Girl and The Boleyn Inheritance. I freaking love both of those books. Highly recommend them. So let's move on to the Cousins War series. The first book, The White Queen, being released in 2009, and this is all about the War of the Roses, which was awesome. Very Game of Thrones-esque. If you love Game of Thrones, you will love the Cousins War, because that is pretty much what George R. R. Martin has based Game of Thrones off of. And once again, very much like the Tudor Court series, the publication order is not necessarily the chronological way you should read the books as well. So I will give you the suggested reading order here as well. First, you should read The Lady of the Rivers, which focuses on Jacquetta of Luxembourg, who ends up being Elizabeth Woodville's mother. Then read The White Queen, which is about Elizabeth Woodville. Then The Red Queen, which is about Margaret Beaufort. Then The Kingmaker's Daughter, which focuses on Anne and Isabel Neville. Then The White Princess, which is about Elizabeth of York, who is the daughter of Elizabeth Woodville. And then the only one that I have yet to read from this series is The King's Curse, and this focuses on Margaret Pole. And I really love the Cousins War series, you guys. It is so good. There's not really a bad book in the bunch, but my favorite book is definitely The Kingmaker's Daughter. And I mean, yeah, it's hard to dislike the White Queen and the Red Queen, just so good. And then the next batch of Philippa Gregory books is her young adult trilogy called Order of Darkness. The first book having been released in 2012. The first book in the series is Changeling, then Stormbringers, and then Fool's Gold. And there is a fourth book supposedly coming out. I have no idea when it's coming out. I thought it was supposed to have been out by now, but it hasn't come out. Like I said, this trilogy is her young adult trilogy, her first foray dabbling into young adult. And I honestly don't know whether or not to recommend this series because I have yet to start this series. I'm waiting for the final book to come out because I kind of want to just binge the whole series. Overall though, her young adult series has not received a lot of positive reviews, if that's helpful at all. I mean, there are people who do like the series, but for the most part, a lot of people think Philippa Gregory just needs to stick to her adult historical fiction. That young adult isn't really her thing. So I don't know if that's helpful or not. So I'm a little worried to start this series in the future. I'm really reading it only because of Philippa Gregory's name, so I'll have to judge whether or not it's good or not. But yeah, the Order of Darkness series, just reading this quick synopsis, takes place in the 1400s, follows Luca, who has been cast from his religious order after being accused of heresy, but is recruited by the Order of the Dragon, a group that investigates evil and strange occurrences. And his first mission is to investigate Isolde, a girl who has been shut up in a nunnery, and she has now been accused of witchcraft, so he has to go investigate that. So yeah, it's young adult. I'm assuming it has typical young adult themes going on, and yeah, these two characters will wind up falling in love and fighting the forces of darkness. But yeah, has anyone read this series yet? Because like I said, I'm worried to read it. I'm not sure if it's going to be any good or not. The next book that I want to share with you guys is A Respectable Trade, and this focuses on the English slave trade that was going on during the 1700s. I have yet to read this book either, but I'm dying to read it because the synopsis sounds really, really good. Next is The Wise Woman, and this takes place during the Reformation, during the reign of Henry VIII, also set during the time with Anne Boleyn as well. And you guys, if I had to not recommend a Philippa Gregory book to you, I would suggest not reading The Wise Woman. Out of all of the books I have read from Philippa Gregory, this is my least favorite book. I really hated it. It just kind of got to the point that it was really gross and disturbing, and the sex scenes were just really ugh. Don't pick up The Wise Woman is what I'm trying to say. If you're like me though and you love Philippa Gregory, then by all means pick this up, but this is probably the worst book out of all of her books, to be quite honest. And then I have Fallen Skies, and this takes place in the 1920s following World War I. And I haven't yet read this book either, and I'm dying to because, you know, Philippa Gregory, as you have seen from all of the books that I have put in this video, she's mostly focused on like the Plantagenets or the Tudors, and she hasn't really done anything with like the 1900s, so I'm curious to see Philippa Gregory's take on the 1900s. And then I do have one other book to share with you guys, and it's not historical fiction at all, and it's The Little House, and this is one of her modern books in a contemporary setting, and it just follows this young woman who has married, and the two of them, they have a son, but her mother-in-law is very pesky and nosy and gets in the way. So we have a lot of drama going on between the main woman in this and her mother-in-law, and it's super great. It's kind of like a thriller, if you will, if you like that sort of thing. So you guys, in the comments below, are you familiar with Philippa Gregory? If so, how much of her books have you read? What are your favorite books? And if you are not familiar with Philippa Gregory, has this video helped you at all? Is this video helpful? I just want to know if it's helpful or not. And do you have a good idea where you would like to start if you are interested? So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.